While we all love those blockbuster hits, there are so many amazing films that often go unnoticed. So consider this your guide as I share my top 10 most underrated movies that deserve more recognition. Now, movies have always been a huge part of my life, whether it's the stories, the emotions, or how they can completely change your mindset of the world. I believe some of the most amazing films deserve more love, and I'm so excited to share these underrated gems with you. Before we dive in, I'd love to hear from you. Drop your most underrated movie picks in the comments so we can all watch what we've been missing. Kicking off our 10th position is Sick. This horror film released in late 2022 and quickly became one of my favorites about the pandemic. Now, the film was exclusive to Peacock, which is probably one of the reasons why this film was mostly ignored. So let me explain the plot a little bit. The film follows two girls who are quarantining at a family lake house, but things take a turn when they're forced to defend themselves against an uninvited guest. Now, while this slasher may not be the best horror film out there, it's definitely a fun ride and deserves more attention. At number 9, I have Game Night. This thriller comedy is, in my opinion, incredibly underrated. The entire cast is amazing and hilariously funny, with standout performances from Jason Bateman, Rachel McAdams, and Jesse Plemons. And the plot centers around a couple who hosts weekly game nights, but one week a family member arranges his own murder mystery party. And what starts out as a fun game with several couples trying to solve the case quickly turns into a chaotic night when the game isn't what it seems. I highly recommend this movie, and it definitely deserves to be alongside other iconic comedies. Coming in at number 8 is Fall. I recently discovered this film, and let me tell you, it's one of the most suspenseful films I've ever seen, especially for those who are afraid of heights like myself. In this film, two best friends, Becky and Hunter, climb 2,000 feet to an abandoned radio tower and end up stranded with no way down. This movie is intense and has a huge plot twist that will definitely catch you off guard. And as you can tell, I'm a huge fan of thrillers and horror films, so definitely add this one to your list. At number 7 is another must-see horror film, You're Next. You're Next is a horror thriller film that follows a family as they gather for a family reunion at a secluded country estate. But of course, things take a terrifying turn when masked assailants break in, targeting the family with malicious and brutal intent. Now, what makes this film stand out are the two major twists in the movie, one revealed midway through the film and the other at the end of the film. The main character, Erin, who is played by Sharni Vinson, is an incredibly underrated figure in the horror genre and deserves far more recognition. Unlike many other horror protagonists, Erin knows exactly what to do in situations like this, and she defies the typical final girl tropes with her resourcefulness. You're Next is a true standout in the home invasion subgenre, and as I said, it deserves more attention. Coming in at number 6 is Malignant. Released in 2021 during the pandemic, this horror film released both in theaters and on Max simultaneously but flew under the radar. It's an insanely underrated horror gem that blends supernatural elements with a twisted mystery. The film follows Madison, who begins experiencing terrifying visions of brutal murders. Now, as she digs deeper into this mystery, she realizes that the terror she's seeing is so much closer to her than she thought. And let me tell you, the twist in this film is one that I never saw coming, and it completely blew my mind. It's not only shocking, but absolutely terrifying. And with so many intense and edge-of-your-seat moments, this is definitely a horror gem that deserves more love. Getting into my top 5 is Crawl. I'm a huge fan of creature films, and I do agree with so many that we need more of these films. And as I look through my list of films, I realize that it's mostly horror and thriller films, which actually makes sense as most horror films go unnoticed. But don't worry, the top 3 films on my list are not horror films. Crawl is a suspenseful thriller that follows Haley, a competitive swimmer who gets caught in a Category 5 hurricane as she visits her dad in Florida. She's trapped inside the house as the storm rages, only to realize that the house is becoming flooded and infested with alligators. This survival film is incredibly underrated, as it didn't really make a huge impact in theaters. It perfectly blends a creature film with a disaster theme, and as a lover of both of these types of genres, I loved it. At number 4, the last horror film on my list is Wrong Turn. This one's actually my mom's favorite horror movie and might be her favorite film of all time. The film follows a group of friends who are traveling through West Virginia when they take a wrong turn and end up getting lost. And as they try to find help, they stumble upon a family of cannibals who live in the mountains and attack anyone that comes their way. The movie blends survival horror with slasher elements, creating a really tense atmosphere. This film is brutal and it also has iconic final characters that I absolutely love. Coming into my top 3 is Society of the Snow. This is a Spanish survival drama that is based on the real-life events surrounding the 1972 crash of Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 in the Andes Mountains. Released in December 2023, this quickly became my favorite film of that year. It did hit Netflix on January of 2024 and it did get some traction, but I don't believe that it got enough of it. This is such a powerful survival story where the characters must be resourceful and strengthen one another in these difficult times, if they wish to survive. The third act got me really emotional as these people endure unimaginable hardships. So if there's any film on my list that I would recommend you watch, is this one. Now my second most underrated film is Van Helsing. I've watched this film so many times growing up, and I still love it just as much as the first time. Van Helsing is a dark action fantasy film that stars Hugh Jackman as the main character Van Helsing, a skilled monster hunter. Now the film blends different iconic monster stories, and the film deals with Van Helsing sent to Transylvania to stop Count Dracula from creating an army of vampires. Van Helsing teams up with Anna, who is played by Kate Beckinsale, and they have amazing chemistry in this film. And as I mentioned, the film is packed with supernatural characters like werewolves, Dracula, his 3 brides, Frankenstein's monster, and so much more. And the film does an excellent job at setting up this intense atmosphere. It's a modern take on monster lore, and I absolutely love it. It's vastly underrated, so please check it out if you haven't. Lastly, the number 1 most underrated film in my opinion is Klaus. At first, I didn't really understand why everyone was saying this is such a wonderful film and so underrated, but when I finally watched it this holiday season, I adored it. Klaus is a heartwarming animated film that offers a unique take on the origin story of Santa Claus. It's so wonderful to see how the characters come together and how Santa became Santa. I don't want to give spoilers as I want you to see how beautiful this film unravels. It's a beautiful film that brought me to tears at the end of it, as it teaches valuable lessons on generosity and kindness. So that's it, those are my top 10 most underrated films that deserve more love and recognition. I'd love to hear from you on what underrated films you think need more love, and stay tuned as I have more hidden gems coming your way. Thank you for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe for more movie content. Also, you can catch me on Instagram for daily movie content, linked down below in the video description. Thanks again, and as always, keep watching.